Okay, guys, welcome to another episode of the Sales Manager Academy podcast. As always, I'm your host Omar, and we talk about leadership in the boutique retail world. Today, I want to talk about something that is it's not very often talked about when it comes to the leadership roles that we're asking our people to step into or that we're wanting them to step into, and that is the mindset shift that they need to do to go from an individual location to a multi-unit, multi-store location, right? That mindset shift that we know if we've been in that role for a while, that we understand it. The way that you lead an individual store where you have your direct reports to you, and the way that you lead a multi-unit area, right, where you're talking about multiple stores, where they have the individual leader there, and then they have their own individual direct reports, is completely different. And let's talk about how that affects the way that not only you lead and or manage, right? Because those are two different things. And you want to move from being a manager to a leader because that's going to give you a lot more autonomy. That's going to give you a lot more room to allow your people not only to grow, but to not be overwhelmed and stressed about what is going on. From that, and then I also want to talk about how that affects your team's overall mindset, how they perform as well. Okay. Because oftentimes, when you're leading an individual store location, you can call out your individual teams, you can call out your individual team members, right, about what they're doing. And it's a small group typically, right? We're talking about the spaces we work in, furniture locations, AV stores, companies, right? Storefronts, things like that. Appliances. We're talking about retail wireless. We're talking about smaller locations where we're not working with 50 to 100 individuals at a single location. We're a smaller group. We're a lot more nimble, right? So we can move a little bit faster, but also we have smaller teams. Okay. And that is where that mindset has to change. Because when you're talking about dealing with an individual that, okay, I only manage 3 to 5 people. I can reach out to each of them individually. Not all of them are working all, every day, every single day. And I can get a response and they're going to have to talk to me. They're going to have to, answer to me. That is way different than now I have, 3, 5, 10, 15 different locations or more where I have individual leaders there. And then we're talking about they have their direct reports, which are going to number anywhere from 3 to 5, 10, 20 in some locations, right? Especially those higher traffic areas. That is completely different because you don't have the time to reach out to every single one of those leaders and have them give you individual updates on those individual people. Okay, on performance, on why you're not doing this, why you're not doing that. Think about it. With just 5 people that you have to do that with, if you're having a 2 to 4, 5 minute conversation with each of them, you're talking about that's eating anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes of your time. Not only that, but you have to also reach out to them, and they're not going to be able to answer right away sometimes. There's shit that they got to take care of, right? We care about NPS scores. So those NPS scores, those interactions, especially when we have to kind of take it down, right? And save a sale, save a client from canceling, that kind of stuff. That's going to take more importance over the individual that's calling me for a quick update. Like, hey, let me handle this customer first because they're the ones that are going to end up causing an issue. And so that mindset shift that we have of being able to go from multi-unit areas, right, multi-unit locations from a single location, it's got to be different because you can't be spending that much time going after people, right? Going after them, trying to find them, trying to see, hey, what the hell's going on? Why aren't you responding to this? No, you need to be able to manage that time appropriately because if you continue to do and try to manage, okay, try to lead your multi locations like you do a single location, you're missing the ball. you are missing the point of why you're stepping into that role. You can't do that. That's how you end up burning out. That's how you're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, feeling like you're chasing your fucking tail, going in a circle because things aren't getting done. Because it's the same shit that's going on over and over again. That's also what leads to underperformance and also higher churn rates. Why? Because you're micromanaging. You're not giving your team the autonomy that they need to be able to grow their leadership style and lead their teams appropriately. They feel that you're constantly on their back, nagging, bickering, going back and forth. And essentially, you end up talking down to your team. You're not treating them like adults, you're not treating them like people. So don't expect them to go above and beyond. Don't expect them to actually perform, especially when you're not there, especially when you're off. How the fuck are you going to take a week or 2 week vacation and not have to worry about what's going on? That's not the point of stepping into a leadership role. You step into a leadership role because you show that, hey, you can get results done. But you need your people to get those results when you're not there. That is a true sign of leadership. And that's ultimately the fallacy, right, that I see. So if you're looking at yourself and you're wondering why the people that you promote into these leadership roles keep failing, or you're asking yourself, why, if I stepped into this leadership role, am I having an issue now with performance? I never had this before when I was leading my own location, but now as a multi-unit, multi-location leader, an area manager, a district manager, regional, whatever they call it, whatever your title is, now I'm having this trouble. The disconnect is a leadership style or lack of, because now you're not motivating your team. Okay, all you're doing is you're bickering, you're nagging, you're micromanaging. You're not giving them the tools. You're not giving them what they need to be able to perform at a higher level. You're not giving them that training, the tools, the development, the guidance. And part of it could be you didn't get that yourself. You got thrown in the role, you're throwing people in the role, and you're expecting them to get it as they go. But they don't know what they don't know. They're stepping into a different type of role where they're not constantly overseeing things. And then on top of that, you guys know this, okay? We have other projects that get thrown on our plate, other pet projects that maybe we're trying to lead. That is one of the reasons why we're also growing. Or maybe there's these other pet projects that the organization wants us to really get behind and aligned, and they need, us to be grab the material, present it, right? Because it's going to be a group that we're going to be putting this together. That takes time away from what you're doing. You need to be able to be almost omnipresent without being omnipresent. Your team should be able to say, hey, you know what? We're going to get after it. This is what we're going to do. Traffic is slow. Leads are down, right? Whatever the case is. They acknowledge the problem, but they're focusing on the solution. They're focusing on ways to overcome it, and that's where the bulk of their energy is going. When you're trying to get after every single one for them to give you responses to, like, why aren't you doing this? Why are numbers down? Why? You're focusing on the problem. You're giving too much attention to the problem instead of trying to find solutions. Like, hey, okay, I'm looking at the numbers. I see traffic is low. Okay, because guys, if you have anything that's worth a damn at your organization, at your locations, you can see how much traffic is coming in. You can see how many calls are coming in. You can see how many leads are coming in. Okay. So if that is truly the issue, okay, hey, I know this is what's going on. I can see it. This is what we need to focus on, right? Give me, 2 or 3 things that you're going to do to help you get this. Remember, if you force your team to do what you want them to do, they're not going to take accountability for that because there's no ownership. When they tell you what they're going to do and the steps they're going to take to get there, and if things go wrong, how they're going to pivot, now they're taking ownership. Now they can visualize themselves doing this, and that goes a long way. That starts building that mindset. That starts building those neural connections. It starts making them think differently. And guys, it takes while to develop that in everybody. It doesn't matter if they're a seller or if they're a leader. It takes a while to be able to develop that. That's why focusing on developing your people early on, especially as a leader at a single location, is super important, because that gives you the ability to be able to do that once you step into a different role. And it's not foreign to you. Now you can do it. Because this is what I constantly see with leaders that get thrown in that are too used to essentially micromanaging their team to perform. They don't have days off, so they're constantly feeling like they're exhausted, they're stressed, they're burnt out, and they figure, okay, I'm gonna move into a regional, into a area district role, and I'm gonna have more autonomy. I'm gonna have more freedom. I'm gonna have more, I'm gonna be stress free. Only to find out that they're still managing and leading in the same way that they were before, but they're not getting the same results now, because now they have an additional layer. They don't have essentially direct contact to those employees. They also have to deal with the store leadership. Because it doesn't matter if the DM's constantly reaching out to the employees. If leadership at that level, at that local level, isn't aligned, right? If we're not all aligned, then it becomes a constant fight. And that leads to higher churn rate at your locations. So now as a DM, you're also having to step in to help fill in the gaps for your salespeople, right? For your stores, because so and so quit, so and so left. Why they leave, right? You'd be surprised how often that happens. And then your store leaders feel that they're being micromanaged. So now you have those people that end up leaving as well. Either they leave your district and go somewhere else, okay? They leave your territory and go somewhere else, or they just leave the organization, period. And that's what you need to realize, like, hey, okay, I need to step back. I need to refocus. I need to have a different game plan. I need to have a different mindset about how I'm going to work with my people, how I'm going to help them succeed. It's not, okay, they need to perform or they're out. The question becomes, how are you as a leader helping your teams develop themselves to be able to overcome those obstacles on their own? You as a leader shouldn't be the crutch to how your team performs. They should be able to be given the tools and the autonomy to be able to find those answers, to be able to find those solutions on their own. Because when they can do that, they're not leaning on you anymore. You don't become the bottleneck for the growth of your team, for the performance of your team. You also don't become the reason why your team's no longer performing. They feel that they have room to grow. They can try different ideas. They can do things differently. And what you start seeing as well is that your teams, your sellers, are also feeling more empowered. They're getting more things done because your leaders at the stores understand, okay, this is what we need to do. So I'm going to try to take that leadership style. And you're also developing them on those leadership styles, on how to be able to coach, train, and guide and mentor their people. And that gives your sellers that autonomy. That gives your sellers also the habits, right? They're building different pathways in the brain to be able to think differently on solutions, to be able to think through and overcome problems that they're facing. So instead of like constantly, hey, when does this come out? Hey, is this something that we could do? Right? Instead of like just looking it up real fast and seeing themselves, they're constantly just waiting on phone calls and can't get shit done on their own. And that's not what we need from our people. Our job as regionals, as district, right, as area leaders, is to grow the markets. Is the only way we can do that is by giving our stores the ability to be autonomous, to be able to grow and perform. That means we support the leaders through trainings, through developmental programs, right, with our sellers, where we're spending time coaching them, training them, developing them so that we can focus on other things. Depending on your organization, that might mean that you want to do more like events. Your role is going to be more like, I'm trying to expand our presence. So I want to do more events out, at different showcases, at different gatherings. And that means I'm going to have to maybe pull a couple people to go with me from these locations. Boom. You have your teams performing. So that's not too much of an issue. And when your teams perform, you will see how much more traffic that brings into your location. Because yes, you start getting better reviews. More importantly, you start getting more referrals. Like, hey, go to this location, go see this person. They took care of me. It was a great experience. They'll, take care of you. Let me go take you to meet so and so. You start to see how much more that's going to make an impact in how your locations perform. But it starts with you as a leader taking a step back and not leading by example, okay? By hounding your people. No, step up. Help your people be autonomous. Help your people actually develop the skills that they need as individuals to become better leaders, to become better sellers. Because when you can do that, now you're no longer going to find yourself working those crazy 60, 70 hour, work weeks. You're on salary. Doesn't matter if you work 30 hours or 80 hours, you're going to get paid the same on the base. And oftentimes what I've seen is great leaders are able to do more with less. So they have a better quality of life. They get more done. And for the amount of hours that they're working, they're making more than those working 60, 80 hours, killing themselves and just completely draining themselves, stressing themselves out. Because we also know how that affects your personal life. So now when work starts bleeding into your personal life and you don't feel that you have that split, right? That I'm not even going to say work-life balance because everything comes in together as one, okay? But when you don't feel that you have that, you start seeing splits and cracks in your relationships with your partners, with your family members, with your friends, because you're not able to do as much. You're not able to go out as much. You're not able to hang out, whatever the case is. That also does something to you personally because it drains you and it doesn't give you that time to recharge your batteries. And your teams feel it as well. So managing, leading, it's completely different when you're going from a single location where everybody literally answers to you directly to now having a multi-tiered layer where you have another layer between you and the rest of the team. You as a regional area district shouldn't be reaching out directly to every single one of your sellers. That's a waste of your fucking time. You shouldn't honestly be reaching out to every single one of your managers. Okay? If you think that like hounding them, micromanaging them is a good expenditure of your time, you're going to learn real fast how that's going to bite you in the ass. Okay? If you're new into those roles, you're going to start seeing it. If you're tenured and wondering why you have such high churn, why you can't keep people, you start to see it, and that's the reason why. So you want to make sure that you're taking care of your teams. You're developing them. You're giving them autonomy to actually become leaders, to actually be able to grow within themselves and the organization. And then you're going to see how that performance is going to continue to grow and is going to bring in more. Your team's going to be very fruitful on what they're doing on their endeavors. Your local leaders are going to feel more successful. They're going to start stepping up more, right? It's no longer going to be, I'm just focused on my location and just this. No, now they're reaching out to others and sharing best practices. They're working with each other and sharing that information so everybody starts to grow. You need to focus on developing and growing and sharing as much as possible. And you're going to see how that all comes together and works better for you as a group and you as an organization. And then you as a leader are going to understand, hey, I'm fucking working less. I'm not spending and stressing 60, 70, 80 hours a week over my locations. I'm not having to drive across town. Some of you guys, your districts are across state lines, okay? You're no longer having to do that, okay? Your teams are able to step up. You have adequate coverage because they're able to perform and they're bringing the ability to actually have higher headcount there so that you don't have to worry about that. Somebody calls out, it's not an issue, it's covered, right? Somebody ends up leaving, promotion, a move, or they're looking for growth outside of what the organization could give them, because we all know sometimes we just don't have the room for growth at that moment when they want it, but they get that opportunity through somebody else, maybe a customer, a client of theirs, right, really, really likes them and really, wants to poach them from you. It happens. I'm never going to fault them, and you shouldn't either. But when that happens, you should also not have to worry about, man, now I got to go and help them cover, or I got to get, overtime approved, and it's going to be a bitch to get that shit taken care of, right? You're not going to have to worry about that because the performance is there, the headcount is there. Even in downtimes, guys, we see it right now, okay? Even in downtimes, you're still able to do that. But you have to focus on the training and developing of your people. You can't be micromanaging and expect that to be the plan. That's a plan to stress you out and a plan to leave you shortchanged when it comes to the number of employees you're working with and you have employed. Okay? I'm going to leave it there for today. Just something I had to say because I've been seeing it. I see it on my feed all the time. Let's get to it. Let's step up as leaders for the benefit of not just our employees, right? Our local leaders, but also for ourselves and our family. Because when you're stressing less and you don't feel that you're working as much, but you're getting great results, it leads to just a better sense of well-being. Guys, I want to say thank you once again for stepping into another role here, or another episode here at the Sales Manager Academy podcast. My name is Omar. Don't forget, hit that like, subscribe button, and I'll catch you on the next one.